All right, hi guys, welcome. It's Mrs. Mendocino. So we're gonna start off with Act 2, Scene 3. If you guys remember in Act 2, Scene 2, we saw Romeo and Juliet doing their famous balcony scene and promising to marry one another. Juliet sent Romeo away to go get marriage blessing from the friar, and they were gonna plan for it for sometime soon. So let's see what happens now. So we're on page 65 of the book. And we are outside Friar Lawrence's cell, and since you guys aren't with me, I'm going to be playing all the parts, so bear with me. Alright, so enter Friar Lawrence alone with a basket. So just imagine him, he's in his garden, he's kind of prancing around, picking flowers and herbs and things like that. Alright, here we go. So the gray-eyed morn smiles on the frowning night, checkering the eastern clouds with streaks of light. And fleckled darkness like a drunkard reels from fourth day's path in Titan's fiery wheels. So we got a couple of figurative language uses here. We've got some personification in that first line with the gray-eyed morn and the frowning night, and then we've got an allusion with Titan's fiery wheels. At line 5, now ere the sun advance his burning eye, the day to cheer and night's dank dew to dry, I must upfill this osier cage of ours with baleful weeds and precious juiced flowers. The earth that nature's mother is her tomb, what is her burying grave that is her womb, and from her womb children of divers kind, we sucking on her natural bosom find. Many for many, virtues excellent, none but for some, and yet all different. So here he's talking about picking flowers and herbs from Mother Nature, that way he could use them for some medicinal purpose, like making medicines and things like that, some sort of remedy. O mickle is the powerful grace that lies in plants, herbs, stones, and their true qualities. For naught so vile that on the earth doth live, but to the earth some special good doth give. So nothing is 100% evil there. There can't be anything on earth that is so evil that there's no use for it. Nor aught so good, but strained from that fair use, revolts from true birth, stumbling on abuse. Virtue itself turns vice, being misapplied, and vice sometime by action dignified. So let's take a look at those last two lines, lines 21 and 22. Virtue itself turns vice. So sometimes goodwill, virtue, can become a bad thing, a vice, if you misapply it, if you don't use it for the correct purpose. And vice, sometime by action dignified. But sometimes something bad can be justified. So think about how that can apply to the story of Romeo and Juliet so far. And think about it as we continue to read. Now enter Romeo, and keep in mind, he's no longer sad, he's no longer depressed, he's like the most happy guy on earth because he's getting married to his one special girl, Juliet. Within the infant rind of this weak flower, poison hath residence and medicine power. For this being smelt with that part cheers each part, being tasted stays all senses with the heart. To such opposed kings encamp them still, in man as well as herbs, grace and rude will. And where the worser is predominant, full soon the canker death eats up that plant. Here he's just talking about the plants that he's picking, kind of how they're good and bad at some points. All right, so next page, Romeo. Good morrow, father. Benedice, what early tongue so sweet saluteth me? Young son, it argues a distempered head, so soon to bid good morrow to thy bed. Care keeps his watch in every old man's eye, and where care lodges, sleep will never lie. But where unbruised youth with unstuffed brain doth couch his limbs, their golden sleep doth reign. So he's saying, Romeo, why are you awake? It's so early in the morning, the sun was just rising. Therefore, thy earliness doth me assure, thou art uproused with some distemperature. Or if not so, then here I hit it right, our Romeo hath not been in bed tonight. So he's saying you're worried or something's going through your mind that's keeping you awake because you have not been in bed yet. Can take that a couple different ways. The last is true, the sweeter rest was mine. So he's saying, yeah, I haven't been to bed yet, friar, but for good reason. Good pardon, sin, wast thou with Rosalind? With Rosalind, my ghostly father, no. I have forgot that name, and that name's woe. So we talked about it last class, about how quick Romeo was to forget about the woman that he was supposedly in love with, Rosalind. So here he's kind of saying, no way, father, I'm not with her anymore. Like, I completely forgot about that name. That's good, my son, but where hast thou been then? I'll tell thee ere thou ask it me again. I have been feasting with mine enemy, where on a sudden one hath wounded me, that's by me wounded. He's referring to Cupid. They're like wounding him with his arrow of love. Both are remedies within thy help and holy physic lie. I bear no hatred, blessed man, for lo, my intercession likewise steads my foe. So he's asking for thy help and where holy physics lie. So we need your help. And my request is not only going to benefit me, but it's also going to benefit my enemy. So that's what he means when he says, I bear no hatred. I'm not trying to hurt anyone here. Be plain, good son, and homely in thy drift. Riddling confession finds but riddling shrift. So Friar's like, just tell me plainly what you mean. Don't use these riddles and things like that. Just tell it straight. Then plainly know my heart's dear love is set on the fair daughter of rich Capulet. As mine on hers, so hers is set on mine, and all combined save what thou must combine by holy marriage. When and where and how we met, we wooed, and made exchange of vow, I'll tell thee as we pass, but this I pray, that thou consent to marry us today. Wow, he's moving fast. He wants to get married today, one day after meeting Juliet. Holy St. Francis, what a change is here! Is Rosalind, that thou didst love so dear, so soon forsaken? Young men's love then lies not truly in their hearts, but in their eyes. So let's take a look at those last two lines here. Friar Lawrence is completely shocked because, as we all know, Romeo is so in love with Rosalind just 24 hours before, because he just met Juliet like 12 hours ago. And he's saying, oh my goodness, young men's love doesn't lie in their hearts. It's not true, but it lies within their eyes. It's in what they see. We kind of talked about that. It was love at first sight, but is that really love? Jesu Maria, what a deal of brine hath washed thy sallow cheeks for Rosaline. You've cried so much. It's like brine, like sea salt. How much salt water thrown away in waste to season love that of it doth not taste. The sun not yet thy sighs from heaven clears, thy old groans yet ringing in my ancient ears. Lo, here upon thy cheek the stain doth sit of an old tear that is not washed off yet. If e'er thou wast thyself in these woes thine, thou in these woes here were all for Rosaline. And art thou changed? Pronounce this sentence then. Woman may fall when there is no strength in men. Thou chidest me off for loving Rosaline. And he's kind of right. The friar is making fun of him for being so in love with Rosaline, for crying all that salt water for her. And he's saying, if you guys take a look at line, what is it, 75, 76. He says, lo, here upon thy cheek the stain doth sit of an old tear that is not washed off yet. So he's saying you still have, like, metaphorically, some tears left on your cheeks from when you used to cry about Rosaline, since you got over her so fast. All right, friar, for doting, not for loving, pupil mine, and badest me bury love, not in a grave, to lay one in, another out to have. So he's saying, you told me to bury the love, that abates me bury love, like to not love her anymore. And Friar's like, not to take her out to put another love in. So he's like, not to replace her with someone else, just to forget about her. I pray thee, chide me not. Her I love now. Doth grace for grace and love for love allow. The other did not so. Oh, she knew well thy love did read by rote, and that she could not spell. But come, young waverer, come go with me. In one respect I'll thy assistant be. For this alliance may so happy prove, to turn your household's rancor to pure love. So is the friar going to help him out yet? Yeah, he's agreeing to do it. He says, I'll be your assistant, so I'll help you out here, because this alliance, this marriage between you and Juliet, may help turn your household's rancor, your arguments, the turmoil, all the hatred between the Capulets and the Montague to pure love. He thinks it could actually help things out. Oh, let us hence, I stand on sudden haste. Wisely and slow, they stumble that run fast. All right, so the friar's agreeing to marry them, and Romeo's like, all right, let's go, buddy. But Friar Lawrence is offering a piece of advice right here, and I think it's something that we're going to talk about as we continue to read. He says, wisely and slow. Like, let's not go so quickly, because they stumble that run fast. The faster you run, the faster you're more likely to fall over, make mistakes, and things like that. All right, so that's the end of scene 3. Friar Lawrence has agreed to marry Romeo and Juliet. All right, if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be more than happy to answer them. All right, so we are switching gears, going on to Act 2, Scene 4. And here we are in a street in Verona. We're on page 71. And keep in mind, no one except Friar Lawrence knows that Romeo and Juliet are in love with each other. For all else everyone knows, Romeo is still into Rosaline. All right, so enter Benvolio, his cousin, and Mercutio, his best friend. All right, Mercutio, where the devil should this Romeo be? Came he not home tonight? Not to his father's, I spoke with his man. Why, that same pale, hard-hearted wretch, that Rosaline, torments him so that he will sure run mad. Tybalt, the kinsman to old Capulet, hath sent a letter to his father's house. A challenge on my life? Romeo will answer it. Any man that can write may answer a letter. Nay, he will answer the letter's master, how he dares being dared. So Tybalt has sent a letter to Romeo, not asking him to fight, but kind of challenging him to a fight and challenging to a duel. And Mercutio is a little fiery too. He's always looking for some adventure, something to go off on. So he's ready to answer that letter for Romeo. But Benvolio's like, no, calm down, brother. Let Romeo answer it. We'll see what he wants to do. All right, so we're with Mercutio. Alas, poor Romeo, he is already dead, stabbed with a white wench's black eye, run through the ear with a love song, the very pin of his heart cleft with the blind bow boy's butt shaft. And is he a man to encounter Tybalt? So what do you guys think he means when he says that Romeo's already dead? Kind of like Dora the Explorer, I'm waiting for you guys to answer. All right, he says that he's stabbed with the wench's black eye, and then we get a really good allusion here to Cupid around line 15. The very pin of his heart cleft with the blind bow boy's butt shaft. So he's like been shot with Cupid's arrow. He's saying, is he man enough to encounter Tybalt? Because right now he is so heartbroken and he is so lovesick. So Mercutio doesn't think he's like ready to fight. Why? What is Tybalt? More than Prince of Cats. Oh, he's the courageous captain of compliments. He fights as you sing prick song, keeps time, distance, and proportion. He rests his minim rest, 1, 2, and the third in your bosom. The very butcher of a silk button, a duelist, a gentleman of the very first house, of the first and second cause. Ah, the amore passato, the punto reverso, the hey. So he's basically saying Tybalt is a really beautiful fighter. It's kind of like he fights with so much beauty and rhythm, and it's like it catches you off guard. The what? The pox of such antic, lisping, affectionate fantasmies, these new tuners of accent. By Jesu, a very good blade, a very tall man, a very good whore. Why is it not this lamentable thing, grandsire, that we should be thus afflicted with these strange flies, these fashion mongers, these pardon me's, who stand so much on their new form that they cannot sit at ease on the old bench? Oh, their bones, their bones. So he's saying Tybalt's a very talented fighter, which he is. All right, now enter Romeo. And remember, he is still so like head in the clouds, so happy about what's going on. Here comes Romeo, here comes Romeo. Without his roe, like a dried herring. Oh, flesh, flesh, how art thou finished? Now is he for the numbers that Petrarch flowed in. Petrarch was a very famous poet who wrote a lot of love poems to the woman that he was enamored with. Laura to his lady was a kitchen wench. Mary, she had a better love to berhyme her. Dido a dowdy, Cleopatra a gypsy, Helen and Hero, Hildings and harlots, Thisbe a grey eye or so. But not to the purpose. Signor Romeo, bonjour, there's a French salutation to your French slop. You gave us the counterfeit fairly last night. When he says you gave us the counterfeit, it means like you ditched us, you kind of tricked us and you ran off without us. And here he's teasing Romeo about all of these famous women who are loved by men in the past. So all these are great allusions if you want to look into them a little bit more. But he's teasing Romeo because he thinks he was up to some romantic actions the night before. All right, good morrow to you both. What counterfeit did I give you? The slip, sir, the slip. Can you not conceive? Pardon, good Mercutio, my business is great, and in such a case as mine, a man may string courtesy. So I had such a good reason to leave you guys that it was okay for me not to be polite, not to have common courtesy. That's as much as to say, such a case as yours constrains a man to bow in the hams. Meaning to courtesy? Thou hast most kindly hit it. And here we're going to get a couple crude puns from Mercutio that Romeo's kind of bantering back and forth with. So if you guys take a look on the left-hand side of the book, it'll give you a little bit of definitions and some ideas of what they mean here. All right, thou hast most kindly hit it. A most courteous exposition. Nay, I am the very pink of courtesy. Pink for flower? Right. Why then is my pump well flowered? Sure wit, follow me this jest now, till thou hast worn out thy pump, that when the single soul of it is worn, the jest may remain after the wearing solely singular. Okay, so go ahead and look on the left-hand side. I won't explain it here, but if you guys can, you can understand what's going on. Oh, single-souled jest, solely singular for the singleness. Come between us, good Benvolio, my wit faints. Swits and spurs, I'll cry a match. Nay, if our wits run the wild goose chase, I am done. For thou hast more of the wild goose in one of thy wits than, I am sure, I have in my whole 5. Was I with you there for the goose? Thou was never with me for anything when thou was not there for the goose. I will bite thee by the ear for that jest. Nay, good goose, bite not. So there's just more bantering back and forth between the two guys. Thy wit is a very bitter sweeting. It is a most sharp sauce. And is it not then well served into a sweet goose? Oh, here's a wit a cheverel that stretches from an inch narrow to an ell broad. I stretch it out for that word broad, which added to the goose proves thee far and wide a broad goose. So that means like indecent, like you've got a dirty mind, Mercutio, which he does. Why is not this better now than groaning for love? Why art thou sociable? Now art thou Romeo. Now art thou what thou art, by art as well as by nature, for this driveling love is like a great natural that runs lolling up and down to hide his bauble in a hole. So Mercutio is saying, why are you not crying about Rosalind anymore? You're sociable, you're back to being Romeo. So he's a little confused as to the turn of events here, but he still doesn't get why they happened. Stop there, stop there. Thou desirest me to stop in my tale against the air? Thou wouldst else have made thy tale large. Oh, thou art deceived. I would have made it short, for I was come to the whole depth of my tale, and meant indeed to occupy the argument no longer. Here's goodly ear. All right, so enter the nurse and her man Peter. So Peter's kind of like her, I don't want to say assistant, but kind of an assistant in a sense. Like he goes with her and helps her out with some things. And remember, the nurse is Juliet's nurse. A sail, a sail. Okay, so that's a joke that Romeo is making. He's looking at the nurse from far a distance, and we assume she's wearing like a white kind of piece of clothing. She's not the smallest person either, so he's referring to a sail and meaning that the nurse is fat. Two, a shirt and a smock. Peter? Anon. My fan, Peter. Good Peter, to hide her face, for her fan's the fairer face. All right, Mercutio pulls a joke there. So then, like, give her a fan to hide her face because the fan's a lot better looking than the face. Good ye good morrow, gentlemen. Good ye good den, fair gentlewoman. Is it good den? 'Tis no less, I tell ye, for the body hand of the dial is now upon the prick of noon. Out upon you, what a man are you! One gentlewoman that God hath made himself to mar. By my troth, it is well said, for himself to mar, quotha? Gentlemen, can any of you tell me where I may find the young Romeo? I can tell you, but young Romeo will be older when you have found him than he has when you sought him. I am the youngest of that name, for fault of a worse. So are we saying, I'm Romeo, here I am. You say well. Yeah, is the worst well? Very well took in faith, wisely, wisely. If you be he, sir, I desire some confidence with you, meaning I need to talk to you privately. She will indict him to some supper. Abad, so ho. So he's being kind of mean to the nurse, calling her a prostitute here. What hast thou found? No hare, sir, unless a hare, sir, in a lentil pie that is something stale, and or it be spent. Here he's using a lot of puns, plays on words, by using the words like whore and hare in a couple different ways. So he walks by them and he sings, an old hare or is very good meat in Lent, but a hare that is whore is too much for a score, when a whore's here it be spent. Romeo, will you come to your father's? Will to dinner thither? I will follow you. Farewell, ancient lady, farewell, lady, lady. So Mercutio and Benvolio head out, and now it's just Romeo and the nurse, and Peter's there too, but he's kind of just on the side. I pray you, sir, what saucy merchant was this that was so full of his ropery, so full of indecent jokes? Who's this guy? A gentleman, nurse, that loves to hear himself talk, and will speak more in a minute than he will stand to in a month. So kind of like his bark is worse than his bite. He'll talk a big game, but it doesn't add up to what he actually does. And to speak anything against me, I'll take him down, and we're lustier than he is, and 20 such jacks, and if I cannot, I'll find those that shall. Scurvy knave, I am none of his flirt gills, I am none of his skeins mates. And thou must stand by too, and suffer every knave to use me at his pleasure. So she is not a fan of Mercutio. Now at the end she gets mad at Peter's like, why did you defend me here? Why did you just stand there and let him say all this stuff? Which is fair. I'm kind of on her side with that. I saw no man use you at his pleasure. If I had, my weapon should have quickly been out. I warned you, I dare draw as soon as another man, if I see occasion in a good quarrel and the law on my side. Now, afore God, I am so vexed that every part of me quivers. She's so mad she's shaking. Scurvy knave, pray you, sir, a word, and as I told you, my young lady bid me inquire you out. What she did bid me say, I will keep to myself. But first, let me tell ye, if ye should lead her in a fool's paradise, as they say, it were a very gross kind of behavior, as they say. For the gentlewoman is young, and therefore, if you should deal double with her, truly it were an ill thing to be offered to any gentlewoman, and very weak dealing. The nurse is saying here, if you're leading her in a fool's paradise, like if you're tricking her, you're kind of leading her on, then you got to stop doing that. Basically, she wants to make sure that Romeo is actually in it for the real deal. Nurse, commend me to my lady and mistress. I protest unto thee. Good heart, and in faith I will tell her as much. Lord, Lord, she will be a joyful woman. Romeo's like, I'm all about her. Like, I'm in this to win it, or to get married to her. So nurse is like, oh, she'll be so happy to hear that. What wilt thou tell her, nurse? Thou dost not mark me. I will tell her, sir, that you do protest, which she means propose. She's like not the most educated person, so sometimes she gets her words mixed up. So that you do protest, which as I take it is a gentlemanlike offer. Bid her devise some means to come to Shrift this afternoon, and there she shall at Friar Lawrence's cell be shrived and married. Here is for thy pains. So Romeo comes up with the plan. He says she's got to come to Shrift to confession at noon, or in the afternoon, and once she's there, I'll be there and we will be married. No, truly, sir, not a penny. Go to, I say you shall. This afternoon, sir? Well, she shall be there. And stay, good nurse, behind the abbey wall. Within this hour my man shall be with thee, and bring thee cords made like a tackled stair, which to the high top gallant of my joy must be my convoy in the secret night. Farewell, be trusty, and I'll quit thy pains. Farewell, commend me to thy mistress. So Romeo's got it all planned out for the rest of the night. He's saying, within this hour, one of my men will come over and he'll bring you cords made like a tackled stair. So think of like a rope ladder, which to the high top gallant of my joy must be my convoy in the secret night. So I can climb the wall and sneak into Juliet's bedroom for, the night after our marriage. All right, now God in heaven bless thee. Hark you, sir. What sayst thou, my dear nurse? Is your man secret? Did you ne'er hear say, two may keep counsel, putting one away? So she's saying, like, is your man, like, gonna keep the secret? Like, you gotta make sure that no one else is gonna spread what's going on. Warrant thee, my man's as true as steel. It's a great simile, true as steel. Think about what that means about him. Well, sir, my mistress is the sweetest lady. Lord, Lord, when 'twas a little prating thing. Oh, there's a nobleman in town, one Paris that would fain lay knife aboard. But she, good soul, had as lieve to see a toad, a very toad, as see him. I anger her sometimes and tell her that Paris is the proper man, but I'll warrant you, when I say so, she looks as pale as any clout in the versal world. Doth not Rosemary and Romeo begin with a letter? Ay, nurse, what of that? Both with an R. So here nurse brings up the fact that people are trying to get Juliet to marry Paris, but she's saying, I kind of tease her about him when she says I anger her sometimes. But I'll warrant you, whenever I tell her that, she looks really upset, which means that she's actually more into Romeo than she's into Paris. Mocker, that's the dog name. R is for the, no, I know it begins with some other letter. And she hath the prettiest intentions of you and Rosemary, that it would do you good to hear it. Commend me to thy lady. Aye, 1,000 times. So Romeo leaves now. Peter? Anon, handing him her fan. Before and apace. All right, and they exit. So there we have it. We've got Act 2, Scenes 3 and 4. We see the marriage kind of starting to fall into place here with Romeo making the plans and the nurse kind of being the messenger between Romeo and Juliet. So in the next video, I'll be reading Act 2, Scenes 5 and 6. So we'll be finishing Act 2 up, and we'll see what happens next. All right, you guys, I'll see you in a minute. Bye.